UKMotorTalk.
Hi everyone, we are back and we're here. We're actually here chatting to you. We're not at an event. We are sat around our respective desks or sofas or wherever just to come here and chat to you this evening. I'm Mike, hello.
I'm Jim, hello.
I'm Graham, good evening to you.
I'm Dave, I think. How are everybody? Ugh. And I'm Dave, I think. How is everyone? Well?
Yes.
How are everyone is, not too, we can live with that. But yeah, it does make a change to all be sat down and not roaming around with a microphone in hand, doesn't it? This seems positively leisurely by recent week standards.
It's actually been a while since we've all gathered in front of assorted screens.
And we are indeed UK Motor Talk, here to UK Motor Talk to you. Since we've last met, in fact, there have been a few last shows of the season, hasn't there? Because you've been somewhere, Dave.
Yes, I actually got out of the house and went to an car event. It was brilliant. It was Petrol Hedonism at Nebworth. And to say it was eclectic is understating it somewhat.
And I've been to the Lancing Motor Show, which, I mean, Lancing is a place as opposed to an action. a verb, if you will. So, how would that work? How would you have a Lancing motor show? You just have to have two convertibles driving at each other, maybe an MX-5 and an old E33 series or something, and just lean out the window with an electric aerial. And then when you go, you have to turn on, hopefully the aerial go up fast enough and take the other person out the top of the convertible or something. I don't know.
I've got a thing about convertibles and Lancings. The last time a couple of friends of mine were pelting through Lancing in our youth in a convertible, he managed to roll it going over the roundabout by Burger King and Shell's, and that wasn't pretty. Everybody walked out, so it was all fine, but
Wow.
yeah, convertibles and Lancing, no.
Was this an OG convertible? I.e. one that didn't have sort of pop-up rollover bits and pieces to protect your head?
It was a Vauxhall Astra Mark 3. What was RS? About R reg. Mark 3?
Really? Was that one of the ones that had the sort of fixed hoop over the centre, over the middle bit? I can't remember now.
Well, it didn't have by the time he'd finished with it, anyway. But there were four people in it, and it went over onto its lid, so everybody was lucky to walk out without cuts or scrapes. So one could only assume it had some sort of rollover protection, or everybody had time to duck.
I had a series of XR3Is, old sort of 80s XR3Is, as convertibles, and that had a sort of fixed hoop bit in the middle. And I remember that my dad came to pick me up for some reason in my car, and my brother had decided he wanted to go kayaking or whatever. So my dad had put the roof down and then ratchet strapped it across the rollover hoop and then to the towing eyes at either end, which was probably fine the first time when he took it down then it was dry. But he'd come to pick me up and it'd been in the water and was quite sandy and silty and everything else. You get in the car, oh, this is unpleasant. Sitting directly underneath as it sort of just showers you.
I think those old-fashioned convertible middle bar things, they weren't rollover bars, were they? They were just there to help keep the sort of shape to the roof, and that was it.
These are very much young men's tales, and I, as a very young man, was in a Reliant Robin that rolled, I think, 3-4 times. I lost count after a while. I was in the front passenger seat.
After a while, just sat there as it was slowly tumbling down a hill or something.
Did the rollover event take from start to finish?
I will never forget us sliding on the roof towards a bus coming in the opposite direction. You know, if you're going to meet your maker, you don't particularly want to do so while he's on a bus or driving it at you. But there were 6 of us in it, but we all got out bumps and bruises, but otherwise all right.
6 of you?
Where did you all go?
Maniac.
I did say I was a very young man, and one does foolish things as a young man.
We never did.
And for those of us listening who've never actually seen Graham, he's currently wearing a leather jacket, and he appears to have 6 studs bolted through his forehead, and a blue mohawk and an earring.
I still bear the scars, but there you go.
What, from the forehead studs or rolling a Reliant?
Anyway, Lancing Motor Show, which was equally eclectic with many, many things there, including lots of modified cars, as there was where you were. Now, I came up at sort of the tail end of the Max Power generation, which means that, Jim, you were probably in it also, I guess, because it was about the same sort of time that were our formative car years.
Oh yeah, slap bang in the middle of max power. I mean, my first foray into maxing was sort of a tarted up gear knob, a Momo steering wheel, and a max power sticker in the rear window. That was about the limit of it, and then did a stereo after a while. But it was a gentle start. But I never went Larry with body kits or anything like that in the early days of it. And then kind of by the time I'd stopped buying max power, I ended up modifying my cars even more. So it was almost like a crash course at a younger age, and then just most of the ideas stuck with me as I got older and got a few more pennies behind me. But yeah, it was a very, very, very big thing when I was at college. Nobody's car was standard at all. What percentage of all the mods were declared to insurance companies, I'm not too sure. But of course, these were simpler times when you were all driving around in your mum's car with your mum's insurance on it. So yeah, modifying very popular with ladies in their 50s in the early 90s.
Yeah, there was nothing quite like a Nova with an asymmetric front bumper. Ugh.
Yeah, I never got that. I mean, I think I was always the less is more, or the OEM look is more. The Mark II Golf that I had as my first car, rather than anything way too Larry on it. I like the look of the RS body kit, which was styled to make it look a bit like, it had sort of Porsche design cues on it. And you do things like take the door handles off and put Porsche door handles on it. So you had that OEM plus type look. So you'd fit Audi or Porsche door handles and that kind of thing. And that was just the perfect look for me. Take as many seams and stuck on black plastic bumpers and trims and lights off as you could. Smooth everything out, take off the rear wiper, take off all the badges and just keep it clean and tidy. But I still got the bug. I still debadge all my cars to this day because it's just easier for cleaning and polishing and whatever else.
It looks better, I reckon, as well.
Very much the resto mod look, though, isn't it? You just improve it without spoiling it. Too many of the things that one sees at car shows, totally ruined. It's long been my belief that there's no connection between money and taste. The average local car show does tend to prove that.
I don't know.
Well, I can speak with some authority on this now, having been to the aforementioned Petrol Hedonism and commenting on its eclectic nature. There was everything from the Max Power generation, and there is indeed an organisation which celebrates and tries to keep the spirit of Max Power alive and well. And I can tell you, it had a very good pulse from what I could see. There was any number of barely recognisable Saxos. Just looking through the pictures now. It's an acquired taste and it's not my own, but my word, there were some interesting confections going on there. There was a matte black Micra with pink accents, pink wheels, pink cylinder head, a massive great spoiler on the back, and it's called Boris for whatever reason. I couldn't. There's any number of reasons that could be called Boris, and we'll leave you to speculate. But, oh yes, there we go. So we've got a quite seriously modified Nova, an XR2i, the early 90s generation, that sort. Again,
Mark III.
Massive spoiler, and a Renault 5 Turbo with massive, great big gold wings, and not really to my taste. But again,
wicked.
Yeah,
Definitely got LED vibes.
Oh, the amount of LED chasing headlights that I saw, and number plate surrounds, and mag wheels, single wiper in the middle of the screen. That was always a given, wasn't it? And the de-wipered rear. There was even, it didn't have any other modifications other than it was de-wipered at the back and had the word Metro in that sort of 1980s graphic font across the rear. Yeah, the backflash, that's it. It was a Metro GTA of all things, which just had the rear wiper removed. A GTA was, Auto. I think it was the GTI for people who couldn't afford one. It had a carburettor instead of injection, so it was probably cheaper on your mum's insurance. Oh, your own insurance. But
is that the modern equivalent of a Z-Tech S or an ST line? Isn't it? Looks the part, but none of the bits under the bonnet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean the Metro, I mean, we're all aware of the Alan Partridge quote, and there's no way I'd be driving a Mini Metro. I'm not driving a Mini Metro. See what I do, I'll just talk over it. That sort of thing. But looking at the GTA, it's actually quite nicely done. It's not over-styled. It's not got too much of a body kit. It's got a little bit of a sort of spoiler surround on the rear window. But compared to the Max Power crowd, it's positively a shrinking violet. But apart from the Max Power lot, the style and money not being able to buy you it and taste is amply demonstrated by the sheer numbers of Audi R8 clad in day glow glow in the dark, or
See, the chrome
the
vinyl
chrome
that
look.
gets
I was thinking
Shadow
the,
chrome wrap.
Yeah, chrome wrap. I'm trying to think of the chocolate. What is it? Quality Street. Looks like a Quality Street that's just been plucked out and wrapped around a car. It's that sort of green glowing hideousness, and I just can't see it myself. But each to their own. If we all like the same thing, what a boring world it would be.
Well, I mean, I did say what I said. I said with a bit of a sneer, but then, as a lifelong fan of Hot Rods and George Barris and all of those guys, they were fairly wild, and there wasn't always a lot of taste involved there.
No, I think that's probably fair. With your heavy metal flake and bits and pieces, it's a look, isn't it? But probably not one you want to drive, your mum to the shops in or something. It's on a race car, it's kind of okay. You can be a bit leery, maybe not on your daily driver.
Our Fiesta ST in the grand pantheon of modified cars is actually, it's de-wipered. We've taken a few bits off and then just stuck a load of stickers on the outside. The brighter and the bolder, the better. But there's a reason for it.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Because race car.
Jim and I did disagree with you on one thing, didn't we? And that is, and I suspect this might be because there's just a couple of years and we've sort of fell into that modifying wave between us, and that is dimmer kits. And if you may remember these, if you think sort of Renault 5 turbos in like the rally versions of them, and they were often on 205s and sometimes on Escorts and bits and pieces, I secretly think they can look quite good. I remember seeing some Mark III Escorts that had something similar on them. They're sort of like a guard track type look, if you know what I mean. These were the ones that had Cosworth engines and rear wheel drive, or BDA engines and rear wheel drive, and looked pretty cool. Box arches.
I think if you're going to go dimmer kit, you need to go full 80s with the whole thing. It needs to have the very late 80s, just about early 90s. You can get away with vibe to it in terms of the, if you have any badges or stickers or branding on it, you kind of need to embrace the whole thing and look at the cars of that age and the wheels that they had on them to make it all kind of work. I think if you go dimmer kitted with modern alloys, it doesn't work. And I think what let that dimmer kit down was the bonnet vents and the aero catches at a funny angle, and there was just a bit too much on the front going on, I think. But the rest of it, actually, a dimmer kit, and a dimmer kitted 306 is quite a nice thing, I think.
Well, the 205 I was never a fan of, because the 205 is just such a purely pretty car that it just doesn't need anything doing to it, in my humble opinion. It is. It's a timeless looking thing. To be fair to the person with the dimmer kit on the one that I saw at Nebworth, I think the bonnet vents were fully functional because the thing had either been supercharged or turbocharged. I can't remember which, but it probably needed the extra cooling. So to be fair to it, and it also, as Mike pointed out, and we got onto the subject of wheels on our WhatsApp conversation, the wheels had been I think had been widened, hadn't they, and turned into split rim alloy. Yeah. So it still had the original sort of 205 1.9 GTI wheels, the slightly more deeper dished, semi-teledial looking things, but they had about another 1.5 inches in the rim width by the looks of it.
Extra rimmage going on. Yeah, they made it that bit wider and filled the arches out, which is I think pretty decent. I like that. I think if you've got the correct, OEM wheels that they've widened, that's kind of okay, because I think that largely 90s alloys were a bit cack. They look okay on certain things, like an RX-7 with 3 spokes and a sort of coloured band around the rim. That's kind of okay, because that's how we had it in Gran Turismo 2 or whatever on your PlayStation.
Just going back to the vents thing, if you've got the bonnet vents that dimmer kitted car had on it were almost modern, weren't they? They were a bit like the vents on our Fiesta. Whereas I think if you're going to go air vents on something with a dimmer kit, then you need to go. Is it NACA? They call it NACA ducts, the Ferrari F40 style.
Oh yeah, that would work.
If you go with those on the bonnet, then those are of period, so they work. So again, like I say, it's that OEM plus look. So you just look at more modern stuff from the same manufacturer, or stuff that was more exotic at the time.
Or louvred, maybe.
And put that on the car.
Do you remember people used to press the louvres into the panels and things? So you'd have this sort of... Yeah, I mean, that would kind of work, I suppose, to let the heat out, and it would probably look quite smart. But I know what you mean. Sometimes it's difficult to bring a car from that era that looks very much of that era into now. I mean, I think, thankfully, the Max Power stuff, we've managed to largely leave behind. And I have a theory because I was an OEM Plus guy as well. So for me, my cars wore rims from the same manufacturer normally. So like on my XR3s, they had the lattice spokes. So the ones that you'd get on a Sierra Cosworth were an inch bigger. So I just fit those to them. Or I fitted Focus 17-inch wheels to my Fiesta, which had 15s and that kind of stuff. A little bit of lowering, colour coding, and just trying to keep it neat and tidy. But as a rule, I think if it's got the name of another car in it, it probably doesn't belong on your car. So if you've got a Clio, you don't need Lambo doors. They belong on a Lambo. If you've got a Corsa, that doesn't need M3 mirrors. They belong on an M3. Lexus lights, you guessed it. I kind of liked them when they first came out, but they don't belong on your Ford Escort. No, leave those behind. Or your Focus or whatever. They just look ridiculous now. There must be other examples of this where they've got the name of the thing in it that it comes off of. Audi lights, I suppose, for a long time were the thing, weren't they? You'd buy cheap day running light little strips from eBay, and you'd then sort of fit them to the fog light recesses or something in your bumper, and they would never be on there quite straight. Then after a while, one of them would go a bit yellow and wouldn't light up enough or whatever. That happened for a long time. All this kind of thing. If it comes from another car, day running lights and everything now, but just leave it alone. There are maybe a few exceptions. I saw the BMW Halo lamps sometimes would work if they were put into something else. So like the E36 headlamps, I saw stuffed into something the other day. It actually looked okay.
Well, that works if you've got a Mark 1 or Mark 2 Golf, I think, where the headlamps are round. They work very well. It's where they get sort of shoehorned into something that's got, very swoopy, very eye-looking headlights, that are designed to look like cat's eyes or an animal's eyes or whatever. It doesn't work if you put those in there because it's a random round shape in a series of other shapes. So if your headlights are square or round, yes, you can get away with it.
It's a bit like the early projector headlamps you used to get in, was it the E39 5 Series, the ones that with like the projector in the centre? I think you can fit those into a Golf and a Capri and other bits and pieces. They're all the same sort of size. So as you say, you can do that. And the same, I've seen lots and lots of them where they've been retrofitted with the crosshairs and bits and pieces in. They look pretty cool. I'm on board with that. But yeah, certain things where it's got the name of another car in it. No, I don't think they belong on your car. There we go. I've said it. Unpopular opinion, maybe. Let us know if it is. We're at UK Motor Talk everywhere.
But if you want the ultimate manifestation of that certainly that I saw when I was trying to sort of avert my gaze in certain directions there, was a Volkswagen Polo that was running on at least 20-inch Bentley wheels, two-tone Bentley wheels for that matter, obviously, which, yes, technically the same manufacturing group, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. And not for me, thank you very much.
See, no, I think that's kind of okay. I mean, if you imagine, I don't know, an Uno on Testarossa rims, would you fancy that?
No.
I think that could work. Set of 5-spoke ones. I think that could work. I think you should maybe hear me out on that one. There's potential.
No.
People have been burned at the stake for less heretical comments than that.
No. I think it'd work. I'd work on an Uno Turbo. I think if it's in period mods, generally speaking, are kind of okay. So, I mean, we'll ignore max power.
See, I don't know, but you definitely have to get those second hand, because you can imagine, Mr. Uno driver rocking up to the Ferrari dealership. Oh, can I give you lots of money to buy 4 wheels off a Ferrari, whatever, to put on my Uno? And you can just imagine the parts guy at Ferrari going, no, I'm walking off. Am I allowed to fit? No. But I can fit? No. But what if I buy? No.
Yeah.
That's it. And in fact, if you do it, I now know it's your intention to do it, so I'm expressly banning you from doing it. And if you do it, then we'll just come and take them back because they're ours. They've got our logo on them.
What are Ferrari going to do? I know they fiercely hate people modifying their cars, don't they, Ferrari? They will sue you if you modify it. So who was the DJ did the Nine Cat thing? Had it all wrapped and everything else, and lots of people modify it. Justin Bieber did I think it was a Matt Green one or whatever. Ferrari say, if you do this, we will sue you because it's devaluing our brand and you'll never be able to buy one again. But what are they going to do? Turn around and say, you can't buy a Fiat Uno? I'm terribly sorry. There's no way. You're never buying an Uno again.
Well, you'll have trouble buying an Uno these days anyway. There's not that many left, I know, because I keep looking for them. And any Uno Turbo that does comes up for stupid money anyway. I'd want to keep that absolutely bone stock. Wouldn't want to stick Ferrari wheels on.
I say, well, actually, we've had a whip round from the Patreon, David, and we did buy you one, but it has got a set of Ferrari wheels on it, so I guess we'll just have to scrap it or weigh the wheels in.
Sell the wheels and buy another donor car in order to keep the other one running.
I think if you upset Ferrari that much, you'll be visited by a group of gentlemen in rather tight-fitting suits and rather old-fashioned hats, and all seem to have a bulge under their armpits, but they'll attempt to discourage you.
Armpit in their tight-fitting suits. They just appear at the door. My God, those trousers are tight. Step away from that Ferrari, sir.
And if you are a member of the Italian mafia, then we're not talking about you, don't worry.
No, I've never heard of the mafia.
I think what it did demonstrate, though, sort of all joking aside, as I said earlier on, just wandering round, whilst a good proportion of what I saw wasn't necessarily to my personal taste, what I was very taken by was the enthusiasm of everyone there. There were so many different groups of people. I mean, the Max Power and the other end of the scale, the people wrapping R8s in foil and doing all that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's neither of them are to my taste because there is no taste that I can discern, but it does show that there is a huge wealth of people wanting to do something different, and that's to be applauded, I think. If it's all just sort of beige or black or brown or white, then what a boring world it would be. So, it's nice to see a bit of colour and a bit of variance in our motoring wasteland that we now inhabit.
I think it's that for the last, since really 2005-ish, I would say, cars have got rather difficult to modify in terms of all the mods that you'd first do to a car. You can still change the wheels easily enough, but if you don't put the right TPMS sensors on it, then it throws everything out of whack. But, lots of modern cars, you can't change the stereo in because it's all so integral to the dash and all bolted in that you can't change the stereo on a Mark 7 Fiesta, for example, without some serious work and modification of bits and pieces. And if you're not careful, because it all links in, if it doesn't like the stereo that's connected, then the car won't start. So, in the old days of DIN, single DIN or double DIN, it was very easy. You just bought the cage or the surround if you needed and popped in your Alpine or Pioneer head unit and off you went. It was dead easy. But having said that, of course, most modern cars have now got touchscreens and CarPlay and whatever else, so that's all you'd want in them. So you just upgrade the speakers and off you go. But all the mods that used to get done, you'd have a body kit that kind of fitted and make a rough hash at it. I think the quality of modified cars these days has massively improved in how these things are done, and whether it's just, the manufacturing process of the body kits themselves, they now just fit better, or there's fewer of them, so those that are produced are better quality. Everything just seems to have pretty much kicked up a notch in terms of the fit and finish, apart from this S-Max that you saw.
Yeah, it was... It is a unique taste, isn't it? I mean, I think there's a bum for every seat, they say, don't they? And people like different things, as David said, and I think that's kind of okay. But I think with the way that cars have developed, as you said, things have got a little bit formulaic to an extent, because you have, on one hand, sort of checkbook builds where people will just get the car, they'll buy the most expensive set of rims they can buy and get air ride, and then slam it on the deck, and that's done. That's the entire car for them. Maybe get a retrim on the interior. In terms of body kits, I don't think you really see them anymore. My Fiesta had a body kit which was an actual Ford body kit from the factory. It looked quite smart. But now what you tend to get is these little splitters and lips and things that people fit to the underside of the skirts with self tappers and under the front. And we've done a few of these for people actually, and that they seem to be massively popular.
They always look pretty good. It just sort of enhances what's already there. So actually, is that the OEM Plus look? It's how it came out of the factory, just a little bit better.
See, I'm not sure that give that a few years, people are going to go, well, apart from the fact that when they hit things, they seem to splinter and shatter. Whether, in a few years' time, people go, I can't believe that my car's got loads of holes under the side skirt where they used to have these things fitted. Because once you've made holes in it, haven't you? It's done. There's no way back from that. So it is quite nice to see a bit of variety, and as Dave says, not everyone's going to like the same things. Part of the fun of being in the car scene is that I might like something. You know, Dave might have a bent for Fiat Pandas or something. You know, Fiat Panda 4x4 might be your idea of fun. There's people that are into Land Rovers and all the fun and maintenance that comes with that. There's people that like rusty old Fords and Minis, and like me, people that will spend 25 quid on a Mini, people that will spend £100,000 on a Sierra Cosworth, whereas I personally would think, well, why would you spend that on a Sierra? I mean, I'm a Ford guy, I like that kind of stuff, but you just think you could go out and buy a Ferrari. Why wouldn't you do that? The whole point of something like, and I'm sure I've said this before, I'm sure I've said this many times, in fact, the whole idea of stuff like RSs was it democratised the supercar performance for pocket money, effectively, and you could go out there and you could smash a Porsche's head in, and then come back and do some donuts around your McDonald's car park, or whatever other yobbish behaviour you were going to do, and then go to the shops. That's the whole point. It's not much good if you're driving around in a car that's worth 3 Porsches. It doesn't make sense to me, because you might as well have a Porsche, an estate car, and something else if it's going to be 100 grand's worth. So yeah, I mean, the fact that there's something out there for everyone, I think is great, except for some things that maybe should be left in the past. And on that note, actually, I'd like to know what the most embarrassing mods you've done to your cars are, if you care to own up. What's the most embarrassing things you've done to your cars?
I don't know. I think things like that could be deemed embarrassing if you embrace it and own the notoriety that comes with it as a joke, as a wind-up. There was me and a mate. We were at a car show, and there was a guy there doing his own vinyl printing stickers, etc., like we do at work. He had the cutters. We just said, "Oh, make whatever you want. Tell me the dimensions. Tell me what you want to make." So he got for his Metro, going back to the Metro, that was a 1.3, beautiful car, one lady only, silly low mileage when he bought it, really tidy thing. For the back of it, he got a sticker that took up the entire rear of the car between the two light clusters, and it simply said Metro Power. And his nickname became Metro Power. He had people, didn't even know who he was, on a random night out, because we've all had this. We've got there's a guy in our both our phone books, Mike, from our last track day, that is just Harry Texaco Escort, and that's no idea what his surname is, but his name's Harry, and he's got an Escort with Texaco stickers on it. So that's how you got to know people.
I know people just by their car.
Stuart Sierra was in my phone book, and things like that. But yeah, he became the number of people who just walk past him and shout Metro Power at him. And for a long, long time, we'd done no other modifications to the vehicle at all, other than fit a stupidly loud exhaust and drill the airbox. So it sounded like a touring car.
Drilling the airbox out.
Sounded like a touring car, but just none of the performance. You could rinse the thing out in second gear, and then rinse it out in third gear, and that covered a whole speed span of like 22 up to 31 miles an hour. But it was brilliant, so you can make a load of noise anywhere. It was never fast enough to get done for speeding, but you could hear the thing coming from a mile away. The speed on it was woeful. Every time he borrowed his mum's car, because his was off the road for whatever reason, he got caught speeding in it every single time, because the Fiesta 1.4 just had too much power for him. But it was a cracking thing, and then we lowered it and put 14s on it. Cheap set of 14-inch gold wheels on a red car, looked lovely. But I think the tyres, because we needed something like a 185, 35, 14, they had to order the tyres in, and the tyres cost about £100 each. And then it was a couple of afternoons of rolling the arches and smacking away and hacking at them to try and get it to fit. And then the hydro gas all fell out of the suspension, so it just slammed itself on the deck and didn't move for a month or two. But good fun.
Looked really cool though. At that point, probably slammed to the floor.
So when all the suspension had fallen out of it, we sort of got it into the garage. It's like, if it could look like that, but actually be able to driven, that would be ideal. So when you're pumping it up, don't pump it up too much. But they fixed it and obviously pumped it up to the correct level. So we did let a bit out of it just to let it back down again. So it looked all right.
Anyone else?
Go on, Graham. You must have some tales.
Oh, I don't think I've ever really been into car mods, but the actual wording you used reminded me of the Ford Escort that would never start, and one day I decided to rearrange the driver's side door with my boot. It did no good for the car. It still never started. But it let off some steam for me.
Has some 40 vibes. If you're not sure, ask your mum.
Is that in your punk rocker days of just smashing up cars? Because why not?
I don't know why it suddenly popped into my head, but car modification styles that definitely don't need to stay in the past. Southeast London look. If you've not seen this is sort of, you'd see it mostly on old Escorts, like Mark 1, Mark 2 Escorts, where you'd put a set of decent rims, like RS rims or whatever, or maybe banded steels or what have you, and then just basically slam it on its arse so it'd be right down. Usually with a hot cross flow or something similar, or a hot Pinto in there, and that's the Southeast London look, and they look great even now. You generally leave the bodywork pretty much alone, and just drop it. Have them clean, tidy, and yeah, that definitely still works.
It's that sort of LA lowrider look in European cars, and so, yeah,
I
very
guess
often it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. In those days, either heat the springs up so they went a bit soggy, I suppose, and dropped it, or lopped a couple of coils off, I guess, and some blocks on the rear springs, on the leaf springs. But I think probably the most embarrassing mod I've ever done. I've only ever done this with one particularly embarrassing one. I'm guilty of up badging, and I was going to say what people call it, but I better not because it's not broadcastable. In fact, it's up badging, something beginning with S, and then shaming. So I'll let you fill in the gaps. So this is when you see idiots do things like fit an M badge to the back of a BMW 320 or a 318D or something stupid.
Mine had M badges, but only because it was M Sport.
It doesn't. Every BMW has an M badge, doesn't it?
It's just not
They
good.
seem to be automatic on every, even one series. They've all got M badges on these days.
It's okay if it's an M something, even if it's like an M light, like an M135 or an M140 or whatever. Okay, I can live with that. But when you get something like an old 318D, and they stick an M badge on the back or an M3 badge, and you think the only people that are going to know enough about this to care are the very same people that will not
would do
be
it
impressed.
anyway.
Yeah, that would know, the people that would know that it's a fake one. If my mum was sat behind a 3 Series and M badge at the back, she's going to have no idea what that means. If I'm sat behind, I'm going to go, that's a diesel.
That's a diesel. It's got one exhaust, and the badge is crooked. The clues are there.
Yes. The number of BMW M3s I've seen where the BMW factory made the random decision to fit drum brakes on the rear. I mean, it's
yes, and then they
weight
paint
saving
power
I
drums.
don't know. Yeah.
They paint them red or something. Don't paint your drums red. You don't want to highlight.
Don't highlight.
Don't draw attention to it.
No, just don't do that. So I guess when I was 17, must have been 17. My first car, which was, as we know, glamorous, a new car, pre-reg car, in fact, because it was cheaper than fixing it, knowing that you had an amount, and it was a Kia Picanto SE, which racy. It had everything on it. It had a little body kit that came as standard. It had fog lamps and electric windows all round, and air conditioning and power mirrors and all that kind of stuff. And it had the most amazing brakes on a small car, because being Kia, they raided their parts bin and they put the same brakes on that they put on the people carriers. So it would stop instantly, which is perfect when you've just passed your driving test, because it stops you from driving.
I was going to say, this sounds like the worst first car in the world.
No,
because everything on it works. It's got everything on it, and it's safe and reliable and dependable.
It was safe.
That's no fun. That's no fun.
It was pretty reliable, apart from a gearbox, a GM module, a coolant leak, which meant it had a new cylinder head, and something else. I can't remember what something else was.
Thank God for a warranty.
Yes, but it had alloys and all that kind of stuff, and it had stereo, which I then took out and replaced with a Sony. I assume it's supposed to be an Explode, but it was an Explod. Explod, and then dynamated the doors and all that kind of stuff. I changed the front grille to one that had like a stainless steel meshing, which looked pretty good. It was a genuine one, and then for some unknown reason decided that this car needed to not be an SE anymore. It needed to be, I know what you're thinking, SE, nice, an R, a something R. So I looked around till I could find something with an R badge on that there aren't many of. No one knew what it was, and I found a Volkswagen something R badge and stuck it on the back. And in hindsight, I think, what the hell are you doing?
Why did you do that?
Why did I do this? Is a 1.1. Nippy as it was.
I did something slightly similar, but it was just utterly ridiculous on my Mark II Golf that had the GL badge on it, and you couldn't debadge it because the badge had pegs on the back that stuck into holes on the bodywork.
Do that.
Hence all the rear the rear bumper rusted out on a Golf because they drilled holes in it. But I got a set of number plates made up that were all funky, like ghosted and random letterings and things, and put Golf GTI on the number plate. And I think, why did I? Because it says Golf GTI, but actually it's a GL. I no idea why.
Yeah.
But actually, I then wrote the car off a week later. But I've still got the number plates up on the wall in the garage. But yeah, I haven't got the car anymore.
Apart from that, maybe a chrome number plates around is about as far as I got to the. It was made of stainless steel, so it wasn't even the plastic cheap ones. It was an expensive one.
It's a shame. Yeah, I've still got the car scattered around my house. I've got the number plates on the garage at the front of the house, and the steering wheel on the wall at the back of the house. So that's how the car ended up, literally scattered all around my house.
I think that's fair. It's nice to be able to share this with you all. This is probably the most shameful thing I've done in my entire life. So to be able to share that with you,
you haven't lived.
It's a cathartic process. This, isn't it? We've let out. If you've got a particularly embarrassing mod that you did to your car in period, then let us know, because we'd like to laugh at you. We are at UKMotorTalk everywhere, of course. Dave, did you do anything silly to your motors?
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't ask. Well, funnily enough, it was to a Ford Escort, which was my second car after the Renault 5 that I had for 6 months collapsed, and its suspension and everything basically rotted down one side, and it ended up going to the scrapper for 50 quid. I got a Mark II Escort Popular Plus, which came pre-modded actually. Somebody had already put extra spotlights on the front, which looked quite cool, and it had slightly bigger wheels, I seem to remember, but it didn't have brakes that worked properly, and it had all manner of other bits and pieces, but it went and it didn't rot, and it was actually quite a lot of fun, and you could basically fishtail the back in the wet because it was so light that even with the throbbing 60 brake horsepower going through those rear wheels or whatever it was still a bit skittish at times. That aside, the modifications, think of the period we were in here, this would have been 1988-89, were limited to two things, apart from the installation of a sodding great big CB aerial on a gutter mount, which obviously you had to have back in those days, so that was quite good. There was you may be too young to remember these, but the dash-mounted sound effect generator that you could press. It was designed to release stress in traffic jams, where you could petrol bomb people, you could drop bombs,
missiles,
you could shoot
and stuff.
Machine guns, missiles. I can't remember. I had one of those. It may or may not have been got for me for a joke birthday present. I can't remember. But the one I did spend my own money on, and for shame I relate this tale, was the fake squeezy car phone that you could stick to your dash with the Boss Stick, two double-sided sticky things. It just stuck straight on the dash, and it even came with a fake aerial you could stick on the glass. And I got pulled over one evening, as you did in those days. God only knows what I was doing, but it wasn't anything too drastic, I don't think, because the bloke just laughed at me in the end, as you would, probably out of pity. He just pointed the thing on the dashboard and goes, "You don't honestly think anyone's going to be fooled by that?" And I said, "Fooled by what?" And I just literally had just yanked the thing off and slung it under the seat. He goes, "It looks better now." So,
oh no!
Bless him.
See, but, that's proper policing, isn't it? Shaming you into
exactly.
not being naughty anymore. Don't write you a ticket. Just make you feel like an idiot.
Exactly. I think we were all on the same page there. We all knew it was a really stupid thing to have. But anyway, it was young and foolish.
I think there's a lot to be said for that sort of traffic cop policing, the rather broad-minded traffic cop that will upbraid you for something you've just done wrong, rather than instantly write you a ticket. It's just make you see the error of your ways, and you learn a lot faster, and you perhaps behave a lot better thereafter. And I'm not sure that a £90 fine and 3 points actually has the same effect at all. It does for the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who gets some of that money, and the local authority and the police authority.
I think probably the less said about the Chancellor of the Exchequer this week, the better.
Yeah, yes.
Well, indeed.
Funnily enough, I heard a good joke about trickle-down economics this week.
Go on.
You wouldn't get it. There we go.
And I guess on that terrible, terrible joke, it is probably time for us to say goodbye. It's been a pleasure chatting to you about modification and all our modding crimes, and we look forward to speaking to you next time. So until then, I've been Mike. Goodbye.
I've been Jim. Take care.
I'm Graham. Look after yourself.
And I've been Dave. See you next time.
And of course, if you're missing us in the meantime, don't forget to find us on the socials. We are at UK Motor Talk pretty much everywhere.
UK Motor Talk, a First Take Media production.